Um, so today, I think we're going to expand today on replication and why it's an important part of life, and also how it's essential for evolution to work. And we probably have to go a little bit into information storage and compression as well. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll see where today takes us. I'm not really planning these. I'm just kind of sort of roughly trying to pick up the thread of where I was yesterday, but there's a lot of different paths that we could go down. So let's just see where we go. Replication. Okay, so what I've realised is, okay, I read Richard Dawkins' The Selfish Gene when I was in my early 20s, and it massively resonated. Like, there's a key concept in there which I think is really mind-bending, which is that elephants don't use genes to make more elephants. Genes use elephants to make more genes. So the idea that there's a selfish replicator at the base of our existence. So effectively, humans are the form that human genes create in order to make more of themselves. Now, I'm not sure I entirely agree with Richard, to be fair. I think there's more to it than that. So initially, I was very, very taken with that idea of the selfish replicator. That's all we are. That's the complete explanation for our existence. That we're simply the ultimate end product of a string of nucleotides that wants to make more of itself, and we're just the form in the world that allows it to successfully make more copies of itself. Like, there's a lot of truth in that, but I think it misses the point in that I don't think the point of life is replication. I think the point of life is building better predictive models. Well, I don't even think life has a point, but I think there's an inevitable drive towards a better predictive model, and we're the end point of that drive. Now, let me kind of take it back a few steps and explain what I mean by predictive model. So, a predictive model is some sort of system, organized system, that has a capacity to make decisions, and the decisions it makes will affect its future viability. And so there's a pressure on that system to make better, inverted commas, better decisions being decisions that increase the chance of existing in the future. And so if you can predict a few steps ahead about what the future environment will look like, your model will have an advantage over models that are worse at predicting the future. So that's what I think life is, effectively. It's interesting because every time you get a new technology, and obviously we're in the age of AI currently, we get a new metaphor for ourselves and for the universe, and none of them are probably actually correct. So when we started making clocks and watches, we had the idea of a clockwork universe, you know, these cogs interacting and everything being very deterministic, and there was some value in that. You know, a lot of cellular functions behave very much like little clockwork toys, little intersection cogs and wheels that turn and drive other processes. But it's also limited. And I think when we got computers, we had this idea of sort of a digital model for us of ones and zeros, binaries, pluses, you know, algorithms, trees. We started getting into that kind of model of a sort of software hardware model of ourselves. You know, the hardware is our physical body and the software is the processing that our brain does. Then we had neural networks, and suddenly we could see, well, actually it's circular. The neural networks were based on observing how the brain works. Same with the trees, really, you know, algorithmic trees. But basically my argument is every time humans develop a new technology, we suddenly use that technology as a metaphor for ourselves. And so the development of these large language models, the AI based on predictive modelling, you know, predictive text modelling, has given us a new model for thinking about ourselves. But I've been thinking about this for a while, about what drives evolution, what the competition is between animals that drives them forward. And it is partly the predator-prey interaction, you know, the arms race of, if you're a hare trying to escape a fox, then hares throw up this random jinking, they call it. You might see it if you've ever driven behind one on the road. They just randomly change direction at unpredictable intervals. And that's to confuse the fox, because he cannot predict which way the hare is going to travel. It's a bit like, you know, when you see people sidestepping in a rugby game, you confuse your pursuer by being unpredictable. And so the predator who can predict the behaviour of a prey animal will have a better chance of catching it and will absorb the energy and pass it on to their offspring. You know, they'll be more fit to replicate and survive. So having a good predictive model of the world is what gives you an edge in fitness. This is my theory at the moment. And it's also related to movement. So I'll get on to movement at some point, about why moving is such a key factor in living organisms, and how movement also has driven evolution, the drive for better forms of locomotion. So let's talk about that tomorrow, because we're up to our weekend limit of 6 minutes. Thank you for listening again.